Today, we're going to talk about bar chords. Wait, is it bar? Bar? Sometimes thinking about the proper spelling of bar chords seems harder than actually playing them. Well, my name is Eddie with Guitar Mastery Method. We help thousands of guitar players all around the world, just like you, take your guitar playing to the next level. And today, I'm going to show you how to play the hardest bar chord of them all in the simplest way possible. I speak, of course, of the dreaded F bar chord. I call it the father of all bar chords. It's probably what the F in F bar chord stands for. No, it's not. So what a bar chord is a movable chord shape, right? And it gets its name from a technique called barring, where we'll have one or more of our fingers fretting multiple strings on the same fret. Doing that can seem extra challenging if you've never played bar chords before. But what makes the F bar chord the hardest of them all is the fact that it's positioned right by the nut of your guitar. And that tension point of the strings, where the strings meet the nut there, is actually very unforgiving compared to being further up the neck. So if you get good at playing the F bar chord shape, then you can pretty much play any bar chord shape after that. So to take the hardest bar chord and learn it in the simplest way possible is to really just break it down to its most minimal piece and just build on top of that. So the most minimum way you can play an F bar chord looks like this. What I'm doing is I have my second finger here, right, on the second fret of the G string. And then with my first finger, this is where the barring is happening. I'm barring, right, the B and high E strings on the first fret. So I'm using one finger to bar two strings on the same fret, right? And then I have that second fret on the G string right on top of that. And you're just playing the bottom three strings. So why that still counts as an F bar chord is because we're still technically barring, right? We're barring in literally the most minimal way possible to qualify as barring. And we're playing three notes. Oops, sorry. There we go. Those three notes, all it takes is three notes at the bare minimum to make up a chord. So this still qualifies as a chord. So we've barred and we're playing a chord. Bar chord, there it is. And this happens to be, of course, the F bar chord. Now it doesn't seem so bad, right? We can still technically play the F bar chord just by using those three strings, right? Barring on those two with our first finger. And that literally qualifies as a bar chord. But if we want to make it sound a little bit fuller and add some more body to it, what we can do is holding that shape, right? First finger on the high E string and the B string on the first fret. Second finger here on the second fret of the G string. We're going to reach over with our third finger to the third fret of the D string here and play the bottom four strings now. And that lower note, which happens to be an F note, right? Which is the note that the whole chord revolves around. It just makes the chord sound much fuller compared to this. Like I said, that qualifies as the chord. That's still technically an F bar chord. You can tell all your friends, I can play an F bar chord now just by doing this, right? But if you want, like I said, to just add more to it, make it sound fuller, and we're building, right, on top of it to eventually lead to the full mamma jamma, right? We can just start there. And that's a great starting point. Right there is a full enough sounding bar chord, that it actually is very commonly played this way with chord progressions using a lot of open chords. So if we're playing like C, then we go into the F, back to C, for example, just kind of playing something random, right? Right, so I can easily move from a C chord without having to do the whole bar chord. I'm just playing that half bar chord essentially, and it gets the job done. Now there's one more piece that we can add to this that still won't require anything further from our fretting hand other than just barring the B and the high E string, which is great. Because if we can do it this way, we can do it this way, we can also do it this way. So what I did was I switched fingers, right, on that third fret of the D string. I used my pinky now to play that third fret, and then my ring finger here, my third finger, is going to play the third fret on the A string, right? Still only barring. We're doing the minimum amount of work with the barring, right? But it still counts as a bar chord, right? Now we just added these With our other 3 fingers, we've added those extra notes, and it sounds even fuller. So we've gone from the minimum, right, to a little bit more, to even more. Like I said, it just adds so much more body to the chord. So we're playing, like I said, we're playing the bottom 5 strings for this example. All right, so we've managed to play 3 different, much simpler iterations of the bar chord without, and pretty much covering most of the strings, right? We've got 5 out of 6 here. Now, if these 3 broken down versions of the F bar chord came relatively easy to you, or maybe not as hard as you thought, then playing the full thing is actually well within reach. And I'm going to show you an exercise that'll get you accustomed to the sensation of barring all 6 strings with your first finger. Now, the reason that helps us is because in order to play the full bar chord, we're going to need to enlist our first finger to bar all 6 of the strings for good measure, to make sure that we're, fretting the notes that we need to fret in order to achieve the full F bar chord. So this exercise I like to call the bar chord pinch, okay? So what it is with your thumb behind the neck like this, right? You're going to pinch against the strings with your first finger as hard as you can for just 2 seconds, okay? So you'll pinch it 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, and let go. And then do it again. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, and let go. It's kind of, it's harsh, right? We're kind of, we're putting our index finger through a lot, but this is, again, to train it to get comfortable with the sensation of bar chords. Believe me, playing the actual bar chords is not going to require the same amount of effort as doing the pinch. So you can think of it, it's like we're working out with our hand by doing this exercise. So you just pinch, hold it, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, let go. Do that like 5 to 10 times, okay? If you can do it. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, let go. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, let go. Over and over again. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, let go. You'll really start to feel it, and your hand might get a little achy, and if it does, take a little break, right? But what it's doing is it's getting your index finger accustomed to that sensation of fretting all of the strings. Trust me, by doing this and warming up with it, the full bar chord is going to come much easier to you. What I want you to do now is actually pause the video and do the bar chord pinch, let's say 5 times, right? Holding it for 2 seconds each, just to get your hand warmed up. And then resume the video and we'll play the full bar chord together. All right then, are you ready for the big mamma jamma? We're gonna go over the F bar chord in its full unforgiving glory. So the first thing we need to do now is we need to lead with our first finger, right? If you did that bar chord pinch, you should be nice and warmed up. And we're just going to not like in the exercise, hold as hard as you can. You don't want to do that. There's going to be a kind of a balance, right? There's a certain amount of pressure that's required, but it's not as much as you think, right? And because of that pinching motion, you want to let your thumb help out, right? So you don't want to just let all the energy fall on your first finger to push, right? You want your thumb to kind of meet it halfway so that with those powers combined, right, you're creating the F chord. So once we have that in place, right, we're going to be barring all 6 strings. Now, if you feel like your finger kind of curves a little bit and it's not perfectly flat, that's actually a good thing, because technically we don't need to bar all 6 strings, but in order to play the full F chord, because we have 3 other fingers that are occupying different frets. So we technically don't need our first finger to bar, let's say, the A, D, and G strings, right? We still really only need it for the high E string, the B string, right, which we'll use with this part of our first finger to bar that. But then the tip of our first finger is going to play the low E string. So in a way, curving your finger might actually help, because then you're just barring, right? You're only pushing against the frets that you actually need, right? So you're not exerting any excess energy. So when you're barring all 6 strings like that, right, you can think mostly about the low E string here, the first fret, and then the B and high E strings on the first fret, okay? Then you can bring the rest of your fingers in place, starting with our 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the A string there, then our pinky on the 3rd fret of the D string, then our middle finger here on the 2nd fret of the G string, right? Those strings don't need barring from our first finger. We just need the low E, the B, and the high E strings. And now when you're holding that position, you can drag your pick against all 6 strings and listen and make sure they're all ringing out nicely. If you find that you have a couple problematic strings, or maybe you're hearing some fret buzz or something, right? If you do, that's completely normal, right? Especially if this is new territory for you, you know? You're gonna find some problematic notes in the beginning, but every time you do it, it's gonna get easier and easier, and the notes are gonna sound fuller and clearer. Okay, but if you happen to find notes that are, let's say, muted, or do you hear some buzzing going on, make sure that when you're fretting the notes, right, you want to kind of err on the side of the fret wire that's upwards of your finger, right? So, for example, you notice my first finger, it's not barring the fret here, right by the nut, right? It's kind of barring it closer to the actual fret wire. Same rule kind of applies, anywhere on the fretboard. You know, the proper fretting position where you get the most sustain and the best intonation is when you fret like, so if, let's say, just for example, I'm on the 5th fret here on the low E string. Let's say I wanted to take that F bar chord shape. Remember I said it's a movable shape, right? So if we can play it here, we can also play it up here. It's just no longer an F bar chord. Here it's an A bar chord when we're on the 5th fret here. But see how I'm barring to the fret upwards of my finger, right? Going this way. So you want to think about that, right, with the F chord. You don't want to be over here because that's where you're going to get that problematic muty and buzzy sound, and it just does not sound good. So find that sweet spot on your guitar, and plus it's better because you're kind of venturing away as far as possible from that unforgiving tension there on the nut. All right, so if you find problematic notes, isolate them, right? So right there, like if I'm just hearing muting like that, it means I'm not fretting down quite strong enough. And now when you encounter that, just gradually add strength to it. Don't do the bar chord pinch, right? Because you're just gonna tire your hand out. It's gonna be way too much energy being used. So gradually add some, energy there until the note rings out and sustains. That's a good way to kind of troubleshoot the chord, is to go through every note individually, right? And then find, if you find where the problematic notes are, isolate those, right? And then fix it. Now, if the full F bar chord is still a challenge to you right now, which if it is, it's completely normal and understandable. You just need to be doing that bar chord pinch a few more times, right? Get your hand accustomed to that sensation, like I said. But however long that takes, doesn't mean that you can't play the F bar chord, right? Because we have all these other iterations of it that still qualify and are perfectly valid substitutes for the full F bar chord. So since you have that bar chord pinch exercise under your belt, you can add that to your daily warm-up regimen. Before you start playing any bar chords, do that bar chord pinch a few times, right? Get your hand warmed up, and the bar chords are going to come much easier to you. Also, you can work your way up to the full chord by starting with our minimum F bar chord, right? Remember? This is bottom 3 strings, and then add the D string, then add the A string, right? Remember, we switch fingers for fretting the D string to use our 3rd finger to fret the A string, and then work your way up, right, to the full thing. And in the meantime, until you're fully comfortable with that whole shape, that same idea of how it's movable, right? How I, moved in that earlier example, the F bar chord shape up here to make it an A bar chord. You can do the same thing with this. All right, and then it's a movable shape. That's the great thing about it, is anywhere you play it on the fretboard, you can adhere that shape, and you're using the bar chord shape, but you're creating a new actual chord because the musical notes are different, right? So this is something that you can also just walk up the fretboard if you want to. And as you go up the fretboard, it actually gets easier because you're getting further away from that tension point on the nut, right? That's why I said that the F bar chord is the hardest bar chord. And once you get good at playing that, all the rest of them will come so much easier. And speaking of warm-ups and daily practice regimens and things like that, if you're hearing me say that and you're like, I don't have a daily practice regimen, I just pick up my guitar and I play, I don't really warm up or anything like that. there's something I want you to have. It's a free practice session cheat sheet. This will do all the thinking for you in terms of what you should do every time you pick up your guitar to practice. It will also show you how to get the best results in the minimum amount of time. Trust me, you need this. Click the link up here or check the link in the description box to get your copy. Well, that does it for this video. Be sure to smack the subscribe button and hit the bell notification icon so you can stay up to date on all the future lessons we got coming at you. I want to thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. I'm Eddie with Guitar Mastery Method, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.